Thank you very much, Sant Prabhuji, for the blissful start. Your melodious kirtan, as always. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Naruttamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashta Prayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Govindaya Namo Namaha Govindaya Namo Namaha. So greetings to all for Mahashtami today. Prayers to Goddess Durga to bless all of us. So in the last class, we looked at the objective for us, which is to understand and appreciate Lord Chaitanya's compassion, his sweetness, his mood, and then the mission. So we looked at the purpose of his advent. So we looked at the external reasons whenever there is a decline. So there was this ambience of ritualism there. There was invasion. There was oppression of the lower caste from the higher caste. Then in such situations, there is a decline. So Lord, as per his pledge, he comes. Then the second is to establish the dharma for that yuga, for each yuga. So the dharma for this yuga is to establish the importance of Sankirtana, and then to answer the prayers of his devotees. So we know the exalted Vaishnavas and the Acharyas, Sri Advaita, Srivas Thakur, and Haridas Thakur, they were all praying non-stop for the Lord to come. And then we looked at the internal reasons, which is more important, that Krishna is all-knowing, but he wanted to understand what qualities in him were admired by Sri Radha, liked by Sri Radha, and what is it that, what sense of happiness she gets when she gets the love of Krishna. And Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he cannot be conquered, but what sort of feeling was there when each time she would conquer him. So, from the physical features, they're very similar. However, the complexions are different. Both very beautiful. Krishna is the blackish cloud, whereas the golden complexion for Lord Chaitanya, due to combining with Sri Radha, and also the mood of Sri Radha. So, in addition to this, this avatar is not a declared avatar, as Mahaprabhu wanted to enjoy and to relish the bliss of devotional service. So he has come in the form of his own devotee, exalted devotee, and then to teach others how to worship him. And that's why he did not advertise himself as the Supreme Lord, though there have been multiple instances where he reveals and manifests to his internal associates. So moving on, we looked at the philosophy and the primary teachings, the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Abheda, which is about simultaneous oneness and difference. We looked at the analogy of the ocean water, a drop has the same qualities, but in quantity it completely differs from the ocean. So the individual soul and the super soul can never be one. And then about the other acharyas that appeared before him, and his teachings, which is the love of Sri Radha Krishna is the supreme, and the example of the gopis, that it's superior to everything else, the superiority of bhakti over gyan and karma, and of course the importance of Sankirtana, and then Mahamantra as the the most practical, feasible way to get rid of our sins, to obtain the pure love of Lord, and to succeed in this yuga where we have so many challenges. So we also looked at the major years, 24 years spent in Navdeepa, and then 6 years traveling southern India, northern India, then more 18 years in Puri, the primary associates of Lord. Then we started taking a dive into the chapters, starting with the birth. So the birth was also divine. When Sachi Mata was pregnant, she used to see divine beings coming and praying to the unborn baby. Uh, Auspiciousness when Mahaprabhu, appeared all around, and then the infant hugging the Bhagavatam, influencing Hari Hari chanting. Otherwise, he would keep crying. Then we move on to uh, the baby Nimai. So the baby Nimai would suddenly appear and then demand the bhoga. Even there were attempts to lock him, but he would still appear. The expression of divinity. Uh, his philosophical arguments as a child, his naughtiness, and then as a youth, his mastering of all the education quickly, then his opening of the school, his first marriage and second marriage, and very important lesson learned there that he was always mingling with people from all backgrounds. So the concept of equality explained their importance of equality, and he establishing himself as a scholar, uh, defeating all the scholars around, the instance of Keshav Kashmiri, and then finally rebutting his own arguments. Unfortunately, his father passed away, and then thereafter we jump on to uh, the the details for today, which is the initiation and the start of the Sankirtana movement. So that is the chapter we'll take up. So the next slide, Sant Prabhuji, this is just the slides are just to prevent you from getting bored of my monologue. So there are some quotes. However, I would be just talking through the chapters. So the initiation and the start of Sankirtana movement. This is the phase that we'll discuss now. So Nimai performed the Shraddha ceremony of his father, Gaya. There he met Ishwarapuri, and Ishwarapuri initiated him. So, though he is Lord himself, however, is always, we know in Krishna also, that the importance of accepting a guru. And when he got the Mahamantra, he just was ecstatic. And then he said, what have you given me? It makes me mad. I dance, I cry, I fall to the ground. Ishvara was very happy and he said that, okay, go on and induce this to the others. So this time when Nimai returned, he was completely transformed. Uh, he was, people observed him shedding tears, talking about the pastimes, singing the names, talking animatedly. At his school, he would teach only about Krishna and not teach anything else and tell the students that, I don't have anything else to tell you. And Sachi Mata was very concerned that it is very much possible that he would also uh, take sannyasa like his brother. And she went to Srivasa Pandit. Srivasa Pandit assured her that Nimai was just exhibiting the symptoms of an exalted devotee of Krishna and she should not be worried. There we have a reference of Gadadhara Pandita, where one day Mahaprabhu asks Gadadhara, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna?" So Gadadhara says, "He's in your heart." So suddenly Mahaprabhu would start tearing his skin apart. Said, "No, no, no, don't worry." Gadadhara said that Krishna would see you. You would meet Krishna soon. So then from there onwards, on request of Sachi Mata, Gadadhara would be always with Nimai. One day, then we see an expression of divinity. Nimai runs to Srivasa Pandita's house, and while Srivasa Pandita is worshipping Lord Narsimha, and he says to him that, "Behold, I am that what you worship." And he shows his forearm forms to Srivasa and his complete family, who are very assured. And then he tells to Srivasa that don't worry about the Sankirta movement, don't have any fear. I am in everyone's heart, right? And then he demonstrates by ordering Narayani, who's a 4-year-old niece of Srivasa, to chant and dance. And immediately she starts chanting, dancing, weeping in intense divine love. So that's the moment Srivasa Pandit and his family, they become staunch followers of Mahaprabhu. Then there is a reference of Nityanand Prabhu that how he appeared. So he appeared in another part of Bengal when he was a child, a sannyasi came to their family and then said he wants to take Nityanand Prabhu away with the kind permission of his parents. Nityanand Prabhu, as he was growing up, he heard about Gauranga in Mathura. So then he came to Navdeepa. And immediately Gauranga knew that Nityanand Prabhu had arrived. So he sent Srivasa and Haridas Thakur to fetch him. However, they could not find him anywhere. Then Gauranga, as he is all knowing himself, went to Nandana Prabhu's house, where they saw Nityanand Prabhu dancing and crying with blissful love for Krishna. So then Lord Chaitanya and then the associated and the accompanying Vaishnavas, they all were crying as well, and then they embraced Nityanand Prabhu. And this is how Nityanand Prabhu became his primary associate, and Srivas Thakur house became the headquarters, and then this started the revival of the Bhakti movement through Mahaprabhu. Then there are various expressions of divinity, as we saw first time that Mahaprabhu showed his form to Srivasa Pandit and his family. Then there was a Gaur Purnima day, Guru Purnima day. There Lord Chaitanya asked Nityanand Prabhu to garland Vyasdeva at Srivas Prabhu's house. However, Nityanand, he instead offered to Lord Chaitanya. And then Lord Chaitanya manifested the 6 arm forms in 4 arms, the conch, the disc, the lotus club, and then the rest to the plow and the club. So another instance, Lord said 24 hours in a place which is reserved for Lord Vishnu, and his devotees worshipped him with flowers, tulsi, Ganga waters, sweets, and other offerings. So here there is a mention of this great song which we all relish in the evenings, which is composed by Acharya Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and here which we call as the Gaur Aarti, and he explains that all glories to the beautiful Aarti ceremony of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is like the golden moon. The Aarti ceremony takes place on the banks of Janvi, the Ganga, in Navdeepa, and attracts the minds of all people in the universe. Lord Chaitanya sits on a jeweled throne. To his right stands Nityananda, to his left Advaita Acharya. Srivas Pandit stands close by holding a royal umbrella over the Lord's head. Lord Brahma, assisted by all the demigods, perform the Aarti. The intimate associate Narahari leads others in waving the yak tail whisk, while the brothers Sanjay, Mukund, and Basu Ghosh sing sweetly. Conches blow, bells ring, kartalas chime, Mridangas resound sweetly. Lord Chaitanya's face shines more brilliantly than millions of moons. His neck is adorned with an effulgent garland of forest flowers, with voices choked in ecstasy of love of God. The great transcendental personalities, Lord Shiva, Narada Muni, Sukdev Goswami, proclaim the glories of Gauranga. So this is a translation of the beautiful Kirtan, which is the Gaura Arti. And then following this, the Lord shows his various forms, Rama, Krishna, to his internal associates and devotees, and explains to each of them about their previous births and how they were all associated, thus building confidence in them and then assuring them that how they were protected. And there are some instances where there was one jealous Brahmana, Gopal Chapala. He threw wine flesh outside Srivasa's house, and immediately he got leprosy and suffered for several months until Lord eventually saved him. Then Lord Chaitanya asked Nityananda and Haridas Thakura to go door to door and spread the Krishna consciousness. There were two brothers who were very infamous for meat eating. They were alcoholic, they were abusers. The names are Jagai Madai. They shouted at them and then even hit Nityananda, causing blood to come out. So as soon as Mahaprabhu heard about it, he rushed to the spot and then he took out his chakra. However, on the request of Nityananda, he held back. And then because Nityananda Prabhu explained that our advent here is to pardon and then convert those sinful people and have mercy on them and show them the path. So then he pardoned after that those two brothers. They also became the followers. There are some instances where after Sankirtana, the Lord and his associates, they sat to rest. They were very tired. Then Lord planted a mango seed that immediately became a tree full of delicious fruits. Another time when they were preparing for Sankirtana, there was a storm coming up. Mahaprabhu just took the kartalas and then he, the storm just went away, allowing for the Sankirtana. Another instance is when Sachi Mata was offering prasada to Nimai and Nitai, they would transform into Krishna and Balram, and to great joy of Sachi Mata. Now, as the Sankirtana movement started growing, some people got jealous and then they complained to the local Qazi, who immediately ordered a stop, and he broke the Mradanga also. Then Mahaprabhu took a large procession of the devotees to his house, had a spiritual discourse with him, and then Kazi not only got convinced, but he also assured to Mahaprabhu that he and his people will never stop the Sankirtana ever again. And then he, in fact, joined the movement. Another instance, Mahaprabhu was one time walking near a pond, and then the locals there informed that there was a dangerous crocodile, so Mahaprabhu should be careful. Rather, Mahaprabhu continued and then he put his lotus feet in the water. And that was actually on the head of the crocodile, who immediately transformed into a divine being. He thanked the Lord and said that, he was punished by a sage and now he's been relieved to see the Lord himself. There's another instance about a Muslim tailor who lived near Srivasa Pandita's house. And whenever he used to see Lord Chaitanya dancing and then moving with the associates, he became very enchanted. And then the merciful Lord showed him his original Krishna form. The tailor started jumping around, said that I have seen, I have seen. And then he, he also started dancing and became one of the foremost devotees of the Lord. So this was about the initiation and then the start of the Sankirtana movement. Then we move on to the next chapter, which is the acceptance of sannyasa and the arrival of Mahaprabhu in Puri. So next slide, please. So here Nimai reflected that except his intimate associates, most of the people considered him still as an ordinary person and did not understand his mission, which is to deliver everyone in the world by spreading the chanting of Hare Krishna. So then he decided that he has to take sannyasa. This was very heartbreaking for his mother, Sachimata. However, the Lord could convince her and explain to her. Then Nimai took sannyasa through Keshav Bharti, who gave him the name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, which means that one who infuses Krishna consciousness into others. Here, Sachimata prevailed on one thing. She requested Sri Krishna Chaitanya that he should stay in Puri, not go away from her, so that she would keep getting the news about him. Also, the people from Bengal could see him. Then we have information on Sri Chaitanya when he had the first darshan at the Jagannath temple. He fainted, and then he was moved by Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, who was a very noted Pandit in Puri and advisor to King Prataprudra. Later, when they started interacting, the Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya spoke for almost 7 days about Vedanta. However, Mahaprabhu shattered all his arguments and then declared the preeminence of the Supreme Lord. So there again, there is an expression of divinity where Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya accepted defeat, bowed down to the Lord, and then the Lord very mercifully shows his 6-arm manifestations. Two arms of Lord Rama holding the bow, the arrow, 2 arms of Krishna holding the flute, and his 2 other arms holding a sannyasi's staff and the water pot. And this is how Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya also became a very close associate of the Lord. So then we move to the next slide, please. The next phase, which is travel to the South India. So there, Gauranga proposed a tour to South India. He said that I want to search for his elder brother, Vishwarupa. However, his intention was to spread the Krishna consciousness. He just took one attendant, Kala Krishnadas, with him, and then he started this tour. So then he have a beautiful instance where in one of the villages, there was a devotee, his name was Vasudeva. He was suffering from leprosy. However, he was very advanced in his understanding that we are the spirit's pole and not this body. So he had worms in his body. Anytime a worm would fall, he would rather pick up the worm and put it back. So when he heard about Mahaprabhu and he missed the darshan, he was shocked and he fell unconscious. He started lamenting. Immediately Mahaprabhu knew about it, and then he returned and then embraced Vasudeva. And Vasudeva became cured of all his disease. And this was through the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So the Krishna consciousness started spreading because people would see Mahaprabhu, they would be very impressed. And then he started getting more and more followers. Here, there is an important meeting with Ramananda Rai. We discussed about Ramananda Rai when we talked about the primary associates. So he met Ramananda Rai on the bank of Godavari, and Ramananda Rai, who is actually Visakha, he described the progressive stages of Krishna consciousness to Mahaprabhu, and then he was blessed when Lord Chaitanya revealed his original form as Radha Krishna to Ramananda Rai. Thereafter, Lord asked him to move to Puri, and then Mahaprabhu continued on the pilgrimage to the holy places of Ahobilam, Tirupati, Sri Salem, Kanchipuram, Sri Rangam, Madurai, Kumbakonam, Tanjore, Rameshwaram, Kanyakumari, and more. So here there is a very beautiful instance where Mahaprabhu was staying with Venkata Bhatta in Sri Rangam. So he asked once Venkata Bhatta that why is Lakshmi, who's residing on the chest of Mahavishnu, is not able to give up Vaikuntha and rather join the Ras Leela in Vrindavana. Of course, Venkata Bhatta could not explain, and then Mahaprabhu went on to explain that in Vaikuntha there is awe and reverence for the Lord. The Lord is supreme, and everyone is worshipping the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Whereas in Vrindavan, it's a simple place where there is natural love for Krishna, which has more prominence. And Vrindavan is characterized by fruits, flowers, cows, and the river Yamuna. The atmosphere there is more intimate rather than respectful. Lakshmi could not give up the Vaikuntha mood to become a simple cowherd girl. So, in a light way, Lord here explains that the worship of Sri Sri Radha Krishna is actually superior to the worship of Lakshmi Narayana. And always the mood of intimacy is superior to that of that respect, awe, and reverence. So this one is a great. Another one where Mahaprabhu was in the Srirangam temple, he saw a Brahmana who was holding a Bhagavad Gita in his hand and then he was crying, while the other Brahmanas were laughing at him, making fun at him. So Mahaprabhu inquired, Brahmana said that my guru has actually asked me to read Bhagavad Gita, but I am not educated. So Mahaprabhu said, okay, but why are you crying? So the Brahmana said that I see that Lord Krishna is sitting in the chariot as Arjuna's driver. He is looking beautiful and has the reins in his hands. He is instructing to Arjuna. So my heart is getting overwhelmed again and again, and I cannot stop my tears. Hearing this, Gauranga immediately embraced the Brahmana and said that, "O Brahman, even though you cannot read, you have actually understood the real meaning of Bhagavad Gita." Another instance is near Madurai, where Mahaprabhu visited the home of a surrendered devotee of Lord Rama. This devotee was always very sad, thinking that how could Ravan take Mother Sita? How could he kidnap Mother Sita? The Lord consoled him and said that it was not possible actually for Ravana to take Mother Sita away. And then later on, Gauranga Mahaprabhu found an ancient manuscript which was of Kurma Puran, and then he took it back to the devotee. The script explained that the real form of Mother Sita was actually protected by Agni Deva. And while Ravana just took an illusionary representation of her, immediately this devotee was very, very happy and said that you are, in fact, my dearmost Lord Ram. So Mahaprabhu continued on the west coast of South India. After that, he visited Thiruvananthapuram, Udupi, Sringeri. Then there is an instance where a gang from a nomadic community, they actually lured this assistant of Mahaprabhu with black magic. When Mahaprabhu learned, he immediately went for his rescue. Then he was attacked with weapons. However, those weapons went back and hit the bodies of all those attackers. And Mahaprabhu then grabbed his assistant Krishna Kalidas and then dragged him back. So it's an important lesson to learn for us that even while we are practicing the devotional service, it is very much possible for us to get distracted if we are not careful. However, we should not give up on the association. That is most important. And then always have this faith that Lord is always capable to, help us and bring us back. So this was about the South India trip of Mahaprabhu and the pastimes there. Then next slide, please. So then he returns to Puri, and we see some pastimes at the Rath Yatra. So here there is a reference for Swarup Damodara. So when Mahaprabhu as Vishwambara took sannyas, Purushottama Acharya from Navdeepa, he was following Mahaprabhu. He also left home. He went to Varanasi and took sannyasa. Then after that, he came to Puri, met Mahaprabhu. At that time, he was known as Swarupa. So he submitted himself to Mahaprabhu. Lord added Damodara to his name, and then he also became one of Lord's most confidential associate, Swarup Damodara. Here, there is again a great example of equality where Haridas Thakur comes to Puri to meet Mahaprabhu. Now, as Haridas Thakur is a Muslim, he wasn't allowed in the temple. However, Mahaprabhu sets up a great example here. He arranged accommodation for Haridas Thakur, from where he could all the time see the chakra of the temple, the Lord Jagannath temple. Then he also arranged daily prasadam for Haridas Thakur, and then met him daily, thus giving him darshan on daily. Then we have explanation about Pratap Rudra. He's the king there. He was also devoted, and he had this intense desire to meet Gauranga. However, Gauranga was not interested, always citing that there is no way a sannyasi would meet a king. However, King Pratap Rudra would keep trying through his associates to uh, have this meeting. Now we jump into the Rath Yatra. So there Mahaprabhu and his associates used to clean the Gundicha temple very nicely with water and prepare the temple for the welcome of the Lord. So here is a learning for us that very important for us to do the physical cleaning at the same time, also clean our hearts so that the Lord can enter. Now, whenever Mahaprabhu, as part of the Sankirtana groups, you would see Lord Jagannath coming out of the temple. He would start jumping and dancing. And there were several Sankirtana groups. And in each group, Mahaprabhu expanded himself. And they used to think that, oh, Gauranga is dancing with us. Nobody could understand except his internal associates. Gauranga would often offer prayers and then talk to Jagannatha. So here, Srila Rupa Goswami is beautifully explaining that Mahaprabhu was actually cherishing the mood of Radharani. He explains that when she and the other residents of Vrindavan met Krishna at Kurukshetra, many years after Krishna had left them. Now, Krishna was wearing a royal dress as the king of Dwarka. He was surrounded by soldiers, he had attendants, he had all opulence around him. Now, seeing that, Radharani lamented that she got to meet Krishna after a very long time. However, she is still not able to relate to him intimately as she used to do in Vrindavan, and she has this intense desire to take him back to Vrindavana. So Mahaprabhu was actually undergoing this trauma of Radharani's separation from Krishna, and then experiencing this Rath Yatra as the emotional process, where Krishna is now in the form of Lord Jagannath, and that temple is represented as Dwarka, and then heading towards the Gundicha temple, which is represented as Vrindavana. When the Lord was dancing before the cart of Lord Jagannath, he would sometimes move ahead, and then the Lord Jagannath would immediately follow the Lord. Some other times he would slow, then the cart would also slow down. So in this mood, it is explained that Radharani is actually in the mood of Radharani. Gauranga is controlling Krishna. Then during the halfway of the Rath Yatra, Mahaprabhu just took a break. He rested in a garden. So that was an opportunity where, on the advice of his associates, King Pratap Rudra, he puts on very simple clothes and then he goes and serves the lotus feet of the Lord. He sings the Gopi Geet. That makes the Lord very happy. And he hugs the king, though he knows that he's the king, he doesn't tell. And then explains to the king that the description of the activities of Krishna's life, Krishna's words, they are actually the life and soul of everyone in the material world. So the narrations are filled with spiritual power, and those who spread the message of Godhead are the most important welfare workers. There is a learning for us, which all of us are doing, as explained by Mahaprabhu and while he's blessing King Pratap Rudra. There were instances where the chariot won't move at all, and in fact, there were people pulling it, elephants also putting all their strengths, but no success. Then people would see that Gauranga would appear and then he would just give a little push from his head and then the wheels would again start moving. And there is a beautiful explanation here from Swarup Damodara where he talks about the 5 days after the Rath Yatra, there is Hira Panchami where goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, gets angry when she doesn't find her husband, and then she comes to Gundicha to take the Lord back home. So here Swarup Damodara explains that the glory of Vaikuntha and the Dwarka is way less when compared with Vrindavan. So he goes on and quotes from Brahma Samhita 5.56 that the damsels of Vrindavana, the gopis, are the super goddesses of fortune. The enjoyer in Vrindavana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. The trees fulfill all desires, and the land is made of transcendental touchstone. The water is nectar, the talking is singing, and the walking is dancing. And then the constant companion of Krishna is his flute. Therefore, Vrindavan is the only relishable abode. This is very beautifully explained. Then here is an important one where Mahaprabhu talks about the various levels of devotees. So there was a resident, Satya Raja in Kulina Gram. He pleaded with the Lord that I'm a materialistic householder and I do not know how to advance in the spiritual life. Please bless me. Please show me the path. So the Lord asks him to chant, to serve the Lord, and then serve other devotees. Now Satya Raja again asks the Lord that how can I identify a devotee? So the Lord tells that the primary attribute of a Vaishnava is to give up association of a non-devotee. Then Satya Raja requests, please tell me more. So Mahaprabhu tells him, anyone who chants the Lord's name is a Vaishnava. So Satya Raja, after 1 year, he again comes back to the Lord and says, please tell me again who is Vaishnava. So this time Mahaprabhu tells that one who constantly chants the Lord's name is a Vaishnava. Again after 1 year he comes and he asks the Lord that the same question. Now this time Lord says, anyone whose presence inspires others to chant the names of Krishna is a Vaishnava. So this way Lord Chaitanya explains to all what are the three levels of the Vaishnavas: the neophyte, the intermediate, and then the topmost. Here also there is a example of among the devotees who would be considered all the devotees are great, but is an example of the greatness of a devotee. So Vasudev Datta was the devotee of the Lord. Once time he is pleading with the Lord that he is not able to see the conditioned souls suffering. So let Mahaprabhu transfer all their sins to him, and he is willing to suffer non-stop in the hell, but kindly relieve, the other devotees or the conditioned souls. So to this, Gauranga says that yes, Lord certainly hears the prayers of the pure devotees, and you can certainly benefit them. However, the Lord will never let you suffer for the sins committed by others. So here is this example of Vasudev Datta as a great devotee because he is expressing his desire. Not just he is a great devotee, not just he is doing the devotional service, but his greatest wish is that he is desiring to help others, and then he is willing to accept their sins and then take the punishment to release them. So that's why he is considered as a greater amongst the great devotees. So then we move on to the next phase where we looked at Mahaprabhu traveled from Bengal to south of India. Then he traveled to back to Puri, the pastimes at Puri. Then his repeated desire to actually travel to Vrindavan. So we look at the travels in North India. Next slide. So here his followers were kind of holding him back, but he definitely wanted to visit Vrindavan. And here there is an explanation that when Mahaprabhu comes back near Navdvipa, so this time it's a changed atmosphere. When people heard about the King Pratap Rudra and Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, how they became Lord's followers, the glories of Mahaprabhu. So wherever he went, he made thousands of followers. So the residents of Navdeepa, those who were not following the Lord, they lamented, and then this time they felt that okay, I here's an opportunity to take the blessings of the Lord and join his Sankirtana movement. So there was this big thousands of followers following Mahaprabhu. This was near Ramkeli, which was then near to the capital of Bengal. So the king there was very impressed, and then he inquired from his ministers, what's happening, who is this person. Now, here there is this great story about Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. So they were actually his ministers. The names were Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik. They were actually high class Brahmanas, but they had accepted government positions and they've adopted these names and customs due to the situations then. So when these two brothers they heard about Mahaprabhu and the followers, they discussed, and then uh, on in the night they somehow reached to meet Mahaprabhu. They fell at the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu and begged for pardon. Mahaprabhu then, hugged them and said, "Oh, you are my eternal associates. And from here onwards, you would be known as Rupa and Sanatana." And Mahaprabhu said that the most important thing for which I came to Bengal is just for you. So now onwards, do not have any fear, renounce, and then start working for me. So on their advice, on Mahaprabhu's advice, immediately they start taking action. Rupa, uh, he resigns and then he distributes his wealth, leaves some money for Sanatana, and then starts. However, Sanatana was held back by the king because he was holding an important role, and he tried to, tell to the king that he was not well. However, the king would not agree, and when Sanatana kept insisting, then he was actually imprisoned by the king. Somehow he bribed the jail authorities with whatever coins were left by Rupa for him, and then he succeeded in escaping. In the meantime, Mahaprabhu again started focusing on his travel to North India, and he didn't want to go with so many followers together. So again, he took just one assistant. This assistant name is Balbhadra, and then they start their journey towards Vrindavan. Now here it is beautifully explained that they are going through the dense jungles of Jharkhand on their way, and where there are dangerous wild animals, tigers, and other wild animals, elephants, they're all there. And Balbhadra is very fearful that how they are going to survive through these forests among the wild animals. However, Mahaprabhu was very singing, he was enjoying that journey while Balbhadra was serving him. And Mahaprabhu, there are many instances where Mahaprabhu would just turn the wild animals, start talking to them, and then the wild animals would also, uh, chant and dance in ecstasy. Very hard to believe, but this is true. It's the mercy of Mahaprabhu. So there, Mahaprabhu then arrived in Varanasi, where he met one Brahmana, Tapan Mishra, who had earlier connected with the Lord. If you recall, he used to be very confused reading the books, and he wanted to understand the real purpose of life. And then he got a dream that why don't he meet Mahaprabhu? And then Mahaprabhu explained to him and then asked him to go to Varanasi. So moving on from Varanasi, Mahaprabhu reached Mathura, and he was thousand times, it is explained, jubilant when he touched Mathura, and then 100,000 times when he entered Vrindavana. So as he was walking through those forests of Vrindavana, the flora and the fauna there, they recognized the Supreme Lord while he was there among them as Krishna. And then they expressed their love for the Lord. So there is a instance that one time Lord jumped into the Yamuna river, and Balabhadra somehow pulled him out. So then, with the repeated request, uh, Mahaprabhu decided that they would head to Prayag, and there were many thousands of people who would, join his stay at the Prayag. There at Triveni, Lord Chaitanya used to visit Bindu Madhava temple, is Lord Vishnu's temple. And at that time, Rupa and his brother Anupama, who were following Mahaprabhu, they meet Mahaprabhu finally. And at this stage, we have this beautiful explanation of Rupa Goswami reciting his famous prayer, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Amne Gaurat Vishe Namaha. So you are the most munificent avatar. You are Krishna appearing as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Radharani, and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our obeisances unto you. So here the purport is very significant, as it is explaining to us that this avatar of the Lord is the most magnanimous, because it is mercifully providing to us that chanting is the simple means of devotional service to obtain the love of Sri Sri Radha Krishna. There are no restrictions, no qualifications. So here, while Mahaprabhu was staying in the house of Vallabha Bhatta, he met an elevated Vaishnava, Raghupati Upadhyay. Uh, here, Raghupati Upadhyay recited a verse from his composition, which is very beautifully explained here, and which made Mahaprabhu ecstatic. So the verse is, those who are afraid of material existence study Vedic literature. Some worship the corollaries of the Vedic literature. As far as I am concerned, I pray to Nand Maharaj, the father of Krishna, in whose courtyard the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead is playing. So, more discussions with Vaishnava Raghupati Upadhyay. It is explained that from all forms of Krishna, the form of Sham Sundara is the best. Of all ages of Krishna, the Kishora is the best. Of all the abodes, the Mathura Vrindavan is the best. Of all the moods in which Sham Sundara can be worshipped, the Madhurya Ras is the best. So then it is explained that thereafter Mahaprabhu gave association to Rupa Goswami, and non-stop for 10 days he explained to Rupa Goswami the science of Krishna consciousness. And then he authorized him to write on the devotional service. Here again we have some learning where when Mahaprabhu arrived in Varanasi, he stayed at Chandrasekhara house, who was a Shudra. So there as a sannyasi, people would not actually stay in a Shudra's house. However, Mahaprabhu explains, shows to us by leading the way. And one day while Mahaprabhu was sitting in the house of Chandrasekhara, he asked Chandra that there is somebody outside the house, bring this guest in. Chandra said that there is nobody. But then Mahaprabhu said, no, is there someone there? Chandra said, yeah, I see a fakir who is having this long beard. Immediately Mahaprabhu rushed out and hugged this fakir, and who was none other than Sanatana, because Sanatana, as we recall, was imprisoned, and then he somehow bribed and then came out of the jail, and then he walked a very long distance, a difficult terrain, to somehow meet Mahaprabhu. So this was now the turn of Sanatana Goswami to get the association of Mahaprabhu. And then he was also taught by Mahaprabhu on the science of the Absolute. There is a beautiful explanation here about how the other Mayavadis in Varanasi, they did not like Mahaprabhu dancing, doing Sankirtana. So one such instance is about Prakasananda Saraswati, who had almost like 60,000 followers. So Mahaprabhu once accepted a lunch invite with Prakasananda Saraswati and his close associates. And Prakasananda Saraswati inquired to the Lord that you have such a nice personality. It's like the golden luster. You look like Narayana himself. And why he was not behaving like them, not focusing on meditation, studying of the Vedanta Sutras, and rather doing this dancing Sankirtana. So Mahaprabhu said to Prakasananda Saraswati and his followers that the holy name of Krishna are the essence of all the Vedic hymns. In this age of Kali, it is the best way to make the spiritual progress. Simply by chanting, one becomes free of material existence and attains the lotus feet of Lord. Then, just to convince them, the Lord also explained in detail the real essence of Vedanta, to which all the Mayavadis bowed down to him and begged for his forgiveness. So this conversion of Prakasananda Saraswati was a big one, and very nicely explained that how Mahaprabhu not only explained to them the real essence of Vedanta, but also told them the importance of the Sankirtana and the devotional service. So next slide, please. So again, Mahaprabhu after this travel to northern India, he was very keen to return to Puri because he had promised to his mother that he would be close by. So then what he does is he instructs Sanatana Goswami to join Rupa Goswami and Anupama in Vrindavan. And then he asked them to write book on the conduct of Vaishnavas, also to relocate and renovate all the lost places of Krishna's pastimes in the Vrindavan, install the deities, and dedicate their life to spread Krishna consciousness and to shelter and to maintain the devotees. Here, there are explanations of other exalted devotees. There is Raghunath Dasa, who in his childhood came in contact with Haridas Thakura. He had developed a taste for chanting and was very keen to join Sri Krishna Chaitanya. However, he was from a wealthy family and his parents were always preventing him from taking sannyasa. They rather married him. Despite of all this, he was always trying to run away, and his father's men would somehow find him, catch him, and then bring him back. One time in Panihati, he met Nityanand Prabhu, and he pleaded with him that without your mercy, no one can obtain Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And Nityanand Prabhu's advice, he uh, at the local festival, he organized a big feast. He fed several thousands and with chipped rice and yogurt. Nityanand Prabhu was very blessed with his commitment and service. And then he blessed him that he would soon meet Lord Chaitanya and not only meet but also become one of his confidential associates. So here there is a great learning for us that we cannot obtain the mercy of Lord Chaitanya unless we pray to Lord Nityananda. So Raghunath Dasa again escaped this time. He was successful. He walked continuously for 12 days, 50 kilometers, and then met Mahaprabhu, who instructed him to lead a simple life. So recall that Raghunath Dasa is from a very wealthy family. He had everything. However, Mahaprabhu is instructing him to lead a simple life and always think of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. So Raghunath Dasa puts up a great example. Initially, he was getting the prasadam through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Then he started begging. And then he felt that even begging was not good. It was like prostitution. So he started feeding on the rotten prasad, the rotten prasad which even the cows were not eating. He would clean and eat that with salt. So you can recall that he comes from a rich family. However, he is demonstrating this. He never indulged in any sense gratification and remained very determined like a rock. Mahaprabhu was very impressed with Raghunath Dasa, and then he gave him a asila from the Govardhan hill and asked him to worship it. Another instance is about devotee Sivananda Sena, who used to do the logistics for all the devotees who were coming from Bengal to Puri. He used to organize prasad for all the devotees. One time with the group, he saw one dog also, and he immediately felt that the dog is also a devotee, and he arranged food for the dog. Later, he got held up at the toll booth while the devotees moved on. And later on, when he met them, he found that the dog was not nowhere there. He lamented, he fasted that, okay, somehow the dog got missed while he was supposed to serve the dog also. Then the next day, he was elated when he saw that dog near to Mahaprabhu, who was feeding prasada to the Lord. And then after that, the dog could not be seen anywhere. And Shivananda Sena could realize that the dog was liberated through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Now, uh, here is this beautiful pastime for Sanatana Goswami. So Mahaprabhu is asking for Sanatana. So Sanatana is traveling to Puri, but on the way, he takes a bath in contaminated water and then catches up with a serious disease. And he gets very unhappy with that. He laments that his body is no longer fit. And in fact, he should, end his life. because he would not be able to serve the purpose. He won't be able to do the devotional service in the same way. He came to Puri and then he stayed at the house of Haridas Thakur. Later, Mahaprabhu came to meet him and he embraced him. Sanatana Goswami repeatedly requested Mahaprabhu that don't touch me. There is pus oozing from my body. I don't want that to, contaminate you. Mahaprabhu, all knowing, he read Sanatana's mind and said that you are mine. So when I say that you are mine, that means your body is also mine. So how can you give up your body? Through the embrace of Mahaprabhu, Sanatana got cured. And Mahaprabhu then instructs Sanatana that I have so much work to be done in Vrindavan. But as I have promised to my mother that I will stay in Puri, so I want all this good work to be carried out through you, through Rupa, and other associates. So this is how we know that how Rupa and Sanatana, who they were actually, and how they came in contact with Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu explains to them that you are my eternal associates. And then how they come in the association, how they get this preaching from the Lord on the signs of the Absolute, and then how they get these instructions. So as we know that Mahaprabhu himself did not write any books, but all this work about these books and also about those renovation, installing of the deities, shelter of the devotees, all this work, Mahaprabhu got this done through these Goswamis. Here is also explained about Haridas Thakur's liberation. So we know how great Haridas Thakur is. He came in contact through Advaita Acharya, and then he became a devotee, and then he was very steadfast, and though there were so many challenges, he always continued with his Krishna consciousness. So one time Haridas Thakur gets very sick and he's not able to do his chanting and devotional service. So Mahaprabhu learns that and he goes and meets Haridasa. And Haridasa says that my time has come, and he pleads with Mahaprabhu that I won't be able to live if you are not around. So it is very important that I leave before you. Mahaprabhu, talking to all his followers, he praised the qualities of Haridas Thakur, the extraordinary work that he did, and how he remained steadfast, chanted, and spread Krishna consciousness despite of all the challenges. So Haridas Thakur just explained that he passed away chanting and looking at Mahaprabhu's lotus face. Mahaprabhu with his associates then they honored Haridasa's body departure. Mahaprabhu took Haridasa's body in his arms and danced. Later, he and the other devotees they bathed Haridas Thakur in the sea and then prepared a shrine for him. So Mahaprabhu then declares that the sea had become a Mahatirtha, and this would follow a festival in the honor of Sri Haridas Thakur. So these are those pastimes. Then we move on to the final chapter, which is the final years for Mahaprabhu. Next slide, please. So here it is explained that Mahaprabhu one time, he would see a mount of sand and then say, "Oh, it is Govardhan." He would rush there, fall on the sand. He was always accompanied by his associates who would always follow him and said, "Okay, this is Govardhana, this is Govardhana." Then they would explain that, "No, we are not in Vrindavan." Mahaprabhu was always having this, intense feeling. There's another instance where once Mahaprabhu jumps into the sea, thinking that as a Yamuna river, and then he, for miles, he floats. Then he is caught up by in the net of a fisherman, and all the followers are, searching for him. The Mahaprabhu actually is in Konark, and then they meet this fisherman who says that, oh, actually I feel I find that there is a ghost. They say, no, no, we know how to, take care of the ghost, take us there. So in the first session, we discussed that in the ecstasy, Mahaprabhu used to dance, and the foam used to come out of his mouth, tears would come out. Sometimes the limbs would be seen as disjointed from the body, just loosely hanging on the skin. And this was a similar experience where Mahaprabhu would, was fainted. He was unconscious, and then all his body parts looked like, they are separated. However, the devotees, they put Mahaprabhu, cleaned his body, and then they chanted the holy name, and then Mahaprabhu immediately got up. Later on, this continued, and one day, while performing Sankirtana near the beach at the temple of Tota Gopinatha, Mahaprabhu ran into the temple, and then he merged his body with the deity there. So the six Goswamis continued the work after Mahaprabhu's departure, and based on the instructions of Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu, as we know, predicted that his movement would spread across the planet, which we all know is made true by Srila Prabhupada. And so Sri Krishna Chaitanya's movement is continuing to uplift the humanity by freely offering the easiest and the best means of attaining spiritual perfection, which is the chanting of the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, just before we conclude, let's discuss again about his associates. So we know Jagannath Mishra is a combined avatar of Vasudeva and Nanda. His mother Sachi Devi is a combined avatar of Devki and Yashoda. Nityanand Prabhu is Balrama. Advaita Acharya is a combined avatar of Mahavishnu and Sadashiva. Gadadhar Pandit is Radharani. Srivas Pandit is Narada Muni. Swarup Damodar is Gopi Visakha. Ramananda Rai is Gopi Lalita. And then we also talked about other scholars, which include Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, uh, Prakasananda Saraswati, Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami, all of them who accepted Gauranga's divinity through the various opportunities they got in the intimate association of the Supreme Lord. And then some others. Lakshmi Priya was Mahaprabhu's first wife. Vishnu Priya was the second wife. We discussed about Haridas Thakur. Gangadasa Pandit was the first teacher of Nimai. Ishwara Puri is a disciple of another exalted Vaishnava, Madhavendra Puri. Ishwara Puri initiated Mahaprabhu. Then Kesav Bharti. Kesav Bharti gave him sannyasa. And there's another associate, Jagadananda Pandita. Jagadananda Pandita is also an intimate associate of the Lord since childhood. So in the Krishna Leela, he is Satyabhama. So we come to the conclusion of our discussion about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I would just like to conclude by going back to the I assume that while you're looking at these slides, you are looking at these quotes. Amongst all the quotes or the verses, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions, which we all recited in the last session, which we are doing on everyday basis. The acharyas have quoted Trinadapi Sunichena most of the times. Right? So, just to conclude, the practical method of God realization, as propagated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is that everyone always, right? Everyone always, everywhere, chant the names of Krishna, especially the Mahamantra. Chanting destroys all the sinful effects that lead to the horrors of hellish punishment, birth in an animal form, sickness, poverty, etc. And most importantly, chanting bestows mukti to us and gives us the pure love of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. So that's how we conclude our session today. I would like to, pay my obeisances to His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj. His book, I got this opportunity to read through this small book and provided me all the information. Some of it I could share with you. So thank you very much again for having faith in me and then patiently listening. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
हरि बोल. भक्ति का स्वामी महाराज की जय. हिमांशु प्रभु की जय. Very nice, Prabhu. Very you actually took us to the journey, Prabhu, and I like the idea that I think this was required. Instead of squeezing it every time through one session, you kind of decided to split it across two sessions. I would say kind of, I mean, not actually, but it was a kind of a bold decision to actually do that. Usually we hesitate to do that, but I think you have done justice by doing that, and we really enjoyed the journey. It wasn't like we were just in it, Prabhu. So we loved it, Prabhu. So before we go on across the table, I would just like to mention few things that Prabhu had mentioned in his class. So a kind of hopefully a quick recap what he has mentioned in today's discussion. So we started with initiation and the start of Sankirtan movement, the initial days of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and also his interaction with Kazi. So how he converted Kazi into a devotee, and we know that Kazi is none other than Kans Mama. Then we also spoke about Prabhu spoke about sannyasa days, how we took sannyasa, and how we met Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So where he spoke about 7 days, he was speaking about Vedanta, the Mayavadi version of it, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, without interrupting him, listened him thoroughly, and at the end of the 7th chapter, when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had the doubt whether he was actually listening to him, he right from the first day, whatever mistakes he had done, he quoted a few of them, and he also showed his Sikh Psalm form to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and made one of the great Mayavadis during that time as a great devotee. Then Prabhu took us through the South India tour, where he mentioned about how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Vasudev, who was in pain with leprosy, but he was so exalted that even he did not consider his body to be his, so much that even for worm coming out of his body, if it fell down, he would put back to the body, saying that this is the body we both are sharing. Then Prabhu mentioned about his meeting with the famous meeting with Ramananda Rai, where they spoke about the gradual progressive stages of Krishna consciousness on the bank of Godavari. And then Prabhu mentioned about Venkata Bhatta, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he met them, he was there was a discussion where Lakshmi could not participate in Rasa dance, even though she was Radha, and then the reason being the Aishwarya Bhava. Then Prabhu mentioned about the meeting where Brahmana was crying with Bhagavad Gita in his hand, and that really touched Chaitanya Mahaprabhu post that discussion. and also of the Brahmana who was in anxiety that how could Ravana touch Mother Sita? No one material could touch Mother Sita. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought him some references from Kurma Puran saying that she was actually Maya Sita. And also on how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saved Krishna Kalidas from some group of attackers. Then Prabhu took us to Puri and some pastimes at Rath Yatra as to how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arranged accommodation and prasadam for Haridas Thakur, because since he being born in Muslim family was not allowed inside the temple, but he arranged accommodation so that he could see the chakra at the top of Puri temple from his house. And we know there is a different pastime wherein Sudarshan Chakra was blessed, that just having the darshan of Sudarshan Chakra at the top was equivalent to having the darshan of the deities inside the temple. And also the meeting of Pratap Rudra was mentioned, so where he had a desire to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being a sannyasa would not associate with the kings. But then after one of the Rath Yatras, he went as a dressed as normal sweeper. He went there and he sang the Gopi Geet, and then he won the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And also about clean of Gundija temple during the Yatratha, so that the Lord would enter. And Prabhu gave a beautiful analogy of understanding of this action is to as we wash the temple for the Lord to enter, we should wash our hearts so that the Lord could actually enter our hearts, which is much dirtier than any of the temple, and this dirt has been accumulated over janmas. So Prabhu mentioned different Rath Yatras and his pastime, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, where he would kind of expand in different groups. His conversation with different between Satyaraja as to who is the sannyasa and the different levels of sannyasa, Vaishnava, sorry, not sannyasa, Vaishnavas, and also about Vasudev Datta, one of the very dearmost associate of the Lord, where he was ready to take the sins of all the people so that they would get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Prabhu took us to North India, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Rupa and Sanatan Goswami in Bengal for the first time. Then on his journey to Vrindavan, he was passing through along with one of his associates through a very dense forest, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showered his mercy even on the wild animals. So we have there are pictures available. I mean, even now in those near those areas of the forest, we could see the imprint of those animals, bears, snakes, on the rocks. So while they were dancing, it is said that the rock became so soft that they are the prints of these animals whose who print still on these rocks that are still available. Then Prabhu spoke about meeting with Tapan Mishra, and then when he went to Prayag, he met Rupa Goswami and Anupama, brother of Rupa Goswami and also the father of Jiva Goswami. And there Rupa Goswami sings the famous Namo Mahavadanyaya prayer. And then he stayed at Chandrasekhar's house, even though Chandrasekhar was a Shudra and he being sannyasa, he still broke that barrier about around the casteism. And there it was his first meeting with Sanatan Goswami after Sanatan Goswami left his job. And also his interactions with many Mayavadis, the most prominent being the Prakachanand Saraswati. He was as Sarvam Bhattacharya, he was also one of the very reputed Mayavadis, and these were the two key conversions from Mayavadi to or Nirakarvadi to Bhakti path, which actually installed faith in many more people. Then Prabhu spoke about different pastimes in Puri, how Raghunath Das met Nityananda at Panihatti, and we have this famous Chida festival over there. Then how Shivananda Sinha had his serving attitude, that he even served a dog, considering him to be a Vaishnava, and that is what it turned out to be later, that the dog was being liberated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it was, we can understand it is because a devotee like Shivananda Sinha showered his mercy on the dog, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then actually considered him for liberation. So we also need to be, for us to go back to Godhead, we need that similar kind of mercy from our gurus, from a Vaishnava. And also then he ordered Sanatana to go to Vrindavan along with Rupa and other devotees. And then he spoke about Haridas Thakur's liberation, the glorious liberation of Haridas Thakur. And finally, Prabhu spoke about the final years of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, wherein Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was full ecstasy. He would see a small lump of sand, and then he would consider Govardhan, and he would go in ecstasy. He jumped into the sea, considered to be Yamuna, and then was caught by fishermen net. So different pastimes around there. Then Tota Gopinath temple finally. So he was at the shore, but then in ecstasy he went inside temple and merged into the deities. So after he ended his pastimes, his associate, his close like Rupa Goswami and others, they continued the teachings they continued this preaching the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, till the time and beyond, wherein Chaitanya, where Srila Prabhupada, he came and he continued this same legacy, and then his associate, his disciples, different gurus and different Vaishnavas of ISKCON and other sampradayas are also doing the same. So they are all in the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So thank you, Prabhu. I hope I have covered most of the points. You have very beautifully taken us to this journey. So I would like to now open the floor to everyone. I would like to go
Yeah, Prabhuji,
sequentially.
you not only captured, actually, you are all knowing. So you, without knowing, you couldn't have, explained this. In fact, you added to what I was telling. So, and then what to you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. You explained so nice that probably I think I kind of recollected what other devotees might have spoken earlier. So all praise to you, Prabhu. Hari Krishna. Jai. So we will go sequentially. Can I call upon Mamta Mataji to kindly share her thoughts?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam to all, to both the Prabhuji. So I'm actually ambiguous where to start with. Huh? First of all, your Kartal rhythm, Prabhu. Your Kartal, as always, makes me feel dance. And the way you sing, it goes as per that. I mean, both get synchronized beautifully. Thank you for starting the day. And moving forward to our Himanshu Prabhu. I don't know, Himanshu Prabhu, why you always hesitant to take class. Uh, See, the person like me, yes, we are uh, less with knowledge and less with the words. But what I felt last session and today's session, you're full of knowledge, Prabhu. From wherever you have got the information, from whichever the book references, so everything was triggering on time. So that is something tremendous that you are keeping. So the memory is good. I mean, you're blessed with the memory that you remember each and every incident and the insight. How like you have fulfilled all the corners, fully detailed. Hats off to you, Prabhu. And I will also say, Prabhu, that your preaching is something which is very rare. Uh, how simply you portray everything in a very simplified manner. It really it directly goes to the heart, Prabhu. So you must give the lecture on this forum, on the other forum, and Prabhu, I'm sure you'll be having a very good, tremendous success. You must preach, Prabhu, and this is my sincere and serious suggestion, Prabhu. Last session, today's session, you have covered all through about Mahaprabhu. I only get enlightened. I also learned a lot. In today's session, the most which I got influenced with, it was when Mahaprabhu is saying, what is the best activity in the Kali Yuga. So when Mahaprabhu is saying, first of all, detach yourself from the people, those who are not Vaishnava or those who are not chanting the name of the Lord. It is very difficult, but this is the first and foremost step I realized during the session, because until unless if you will not withdraw yourself, somehow or the other, you will be somewhere influenced with Maya, with this all sansaric, you know, tattva. So, however, it is difficult because we all being in Grista. Uh, but yes, Prabhu, first and foremost. And secondly, as you said, chanting, the most important. Thank you, Prabhu. I mean, there were many, many things. I may not be able to recall because Santosh Prabhu has covered everything. Uh, he has lighted upon, he has revised everything. But for me, both the sessions, Himanshu Prabhu went full of knowledge, full of the pastime of Lord Chaitanya. Uh, my sincere pranam, my sincere danvat. Hare Krishna Prabhu, and I wish you should come on the big platform to preach. Please, Prabhu, take it seriously. Hare Krishna, and bless me as well.
Very well, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. I second you, Mataji. Yes, we all have been saying that, and we all encourage Himanshu Prabhu, and he has that. Uh, he knows how to convey the message. So we all have been encouraging him. We all look up to him, and Prabhu, please keep blessing us this similar way. Hari Bol, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you very much, Mataji. Really honored. Thank you.
Hari Bol. So I would request His Grace Venkata Bhatta Chaitanya Das Prabhu to please kindly share his thoughts. Are you speaking, Prabhu? I think we are unable to hear you, Prabhu. Your voice is not very audible, Prabhu. It is very low.
Sorry, bro. I'm driving. Is it okay now?
No, Prabhu. It is still low. Are others able to hear it clearly?
1 second.
No, it is not coming.
Not really, Prabhu. Yeah.
1 second, please hold on.
Maybe Prabhuji, you can join back again.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu.
Hari Bol, Prabhu.
Yeah,
Hare
now
Krishna, Prabhu.
perfect.
Prabhuji,
Yes, Prabhu. We are able to hear you.
sorry, Prabhu. I'm in driving. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhu. Please drive us back to Goloka, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. So the class was starting from you, Prabhu. The Kirtan was excellent as usual. Generally, I like your Kirtans. You are blending my mind. Very nice Kirtan, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. And Prabhuji's class, it was awesome. Went soft and cool. As Mataji said, it is touching the heart. We could feel your humbleness. We need to learn a lot from you, Prabhu. And as Mataji said, yeah, you need to come into a big platform, and it will be helpful for many of the newcomers and other devotees also, like me. So, Prabhu, it was very nice to hear about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the morning. I just want to add one more thing about this South Indian trip. This Chaitanya Mahaprabhu retrieved Brahma Samhita. But I don't know whether I heard you spelled this or not, but I just I felt it was not added, so I just adding, Prabhu. That's all, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Hari Bol, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you very much for adding that. Thank you very much.
Jai. Can I call Her Grace Priti Swarupani Madhvi Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mahadev.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sorry Prabhu, we missed your Kirtan. We joined bit late, so we missed your Kirtan session. So coming to Himanshu Prabhuji, Haribol Prabhuji, amazing class. Actually, you have nourished our day with full-fledged Chaitanya Leela. So wonderful presentation, Prabhu, with so many details. So much to learn from today's session. In depth, you have elaborated the pastimes. So you clearly explained the loving exchange of devotees and the Lord, and the mood of each devotees, how they are reciprocating with the causeless mercy of the Lord. And the main thing I liked is like your explanations with amazing flow, and your confidence was never was it was not low at any time. So explanations were really wonderful, Prabhu. So the main thing is in Chaitanya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the mercy, like how he was inspiring everyone to keep us on the path of bhakti yoga. So in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, "Sarvadharma parityaja mameka sharanam praja aham tam sarva papeyo mokshayami masachaha." So he is instructing us like how we have to surrender, how we will be able to get out of this material existence. But here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he himself showing us like how to perform bhakti. So he has given the most simple method, but without any discrimination. But we have to just imbibe that thought, and we have to do. We have to just perform our sadhana. While doing that, we have to relish our thing, whatever we are doing, and we have to read and be happy. So just by that bhakti process, like we can give up that mentality of being conditioned, or being the proprietorship of the thing. So just by involving in the service, and by chanting process, we can get rid of all this ignorance. So so that mood of happiness been bestowed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that was clearly visible throughout the pastimes which you have explained in today's session. So many thanks for the inspiring session, Prabhu. So would like to hear more and more from you, as Mamata Mataji said. So I would like to second that statement. So would like to hear more from you in coming days, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. And Sandhu Kapishwar Prabhu, many thanks for providing the gist. You have given the whole gist of what been covered by Himanshu Prabhuji. So many thanks for that, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for a wonderful
Yes, thank you so much, Mataji.
Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Very good. May I request His Grace Vasant Madhav Das Prabhu to kindly share his thoughts?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam,
Prabhu, sorry again to miss your glorious Kirtan.
You will not be forgiven, Prabhu, sorry.
Yeah, that's what, like, only you need to forgive us. Then Himanshu Prabhu, like, there is no words to explain the way you conducted this two session. You engaged us like in both the sessions. It was simply awesome. There is no words like to explain, to be frank. And like you mentioned, like we understand and appreciate the Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji's glories and the pastimes, because like Lord mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yo Vitti Tattva Tattva Degam Punarjanma Naitimam Etiso Arjuna. So you just literally taken us like to the whole Leela of like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which gives us like the opportunity for us to go back to Goloka, because we were relishing the pastimes of the Lord. We never felt okay it was this much time, or like how Lord empowered you to remember all these pastimes, and like to give it in a very flow manner, not even one time like you deviated from like what you supposed to mention. So that is simply awesome, Prabhu. Then, like you mentioned, like Lord Chaitanya is Mahavadanyaya. So he's like a literally little more higher than Lord Krishna, because like Krishna asking us to surrender, but Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is just like a distributing the mercy to even the anyone like who is not deserved his mercy. So he is Namo Mahavadanyaya. So that is one important thing we need to mention, and we are very very fortunate, because like how fortunate we are is in the whole day of Brahma, only one time like a Lord Krishna appears, which is like a 4.32 billion years, like in that time frame, only one time Lord Krishna appears. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like will follow whenever like a Lord Krishna appears in this yuga. So just like a 5,500 years back, Krishna appeared, and 500 odd years like a back, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and it was like a it is a very great thing like we can mention in our resume to Goloka, how fortunately we are like to just appear in the consequent yuga of like a when Mahaprabhu appeared. So that itself is like a great thing, and we are following the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, who is following the our parampara, connecting back us to Krishna. So that is even more glorious. Just to realize that particular what kind of mercy we have, that itself is a great thing. And one more point which I want to just mention, Prabhu, like in Chaitanya Charitamrita it will come. So before you do any work, however tough it may be, if you just to remember and pray to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then that would be like a very easy, even the toughest job becomes very easy to implement. If you didn't remember Lord Chaitanya, and even however the job may be very easy to implement, but if you are not remembering, like it would be very tough for us to implement. So that sloga goes like this: Kadanchana smrate yasmin duskaram shukaram bhavet Vishmarte Viparitam Syas Sri Chaitanyam Namamitam. Like so, if you just remember that and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji's associates, it would be like a great for us to perform any devotion service. Hare Krishna. Thanks a lot, Prabhu. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing your thoughts.
Krishna, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Yeah, please put this on the group. This
Hey,
verse, this verse which you recited towards the end, please kindly share this on the group.
Yeah, sure, Prabhu. I will share like a Kadanchana Sparate Yasmin. Yeah, I will share, Prabhu. This is very, very important thing to note, like a in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Thank you, Prabhu. Hari Bol. So before we close, any final thoughts? We go 1, 2, 3, Jai. So I will end the recording. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shila Prabhupada ki Jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki